Hi and welcome back. A husband says to his wife very romantically, "Honey, from now on, you and I are one, and I'm the one." In the previous video, we assessed what's called your interpersonal trust levels. Hopefully, filling out the scale gave you some idea of where you stand with regard to how trusting you are of others. In this video, I want to discuss how you can go about exercising something that I call smart trust, which is the sixth habit of the highly happy. Smart trust, as I mentioned in the first video of this week, has to do with trusting others in a way that maximizes your benefits while minimizing the chance that you get hurt. If you're like most people, you've discovered that you trust others a little less than is good for you from the perspective of maximizing your happiness. So smart trust in your case would involve trusting others a bit more than you currently do. Of course, you don't want to trust others so much that you're delusional or that you put yourself in harm's way. So smart trust, in your case, if you're like the average person, would involve letting the pendulum of trust swing a little bit more in the direction of being more proactively trusting of others, but not be overly trusting. How can you achieve that? Let me talk about a couple of strategies that you can use to enhance your level of proactive trust in others. Then, I will talk about one strategy for minimizing the amount of pain or hurt you feel in the instances in which your trust is violated. The first strategy for becoming more proactively trusting is to remember that people are actually more trustworthy than most of us give them credit. As we saw with the wallet drop experiments that Professor Helliwell described, most of us believe that our fellow citizens are less likely to return the dropped wallets than they actually do. Just remembering this, that your instincts on how trustworthy others are is biased in the direction of being too cynical, can help you overcome this distrust and become more proactively trusting. Remember also that when you behave in a proactively trusting fashion, people are likely to repay you with trustworthy behavior because of the release of oxytocin, as we saw from the Swiss experiments. Reminding yourself of these two findings whenever you have an opportunity to trust someone will likely steer you in the direction of being more trusting than you might otherwise be. The second strategy, which is also a strategy aimed at increasing proactive trust, is to explicitly bring to mind the hidden benefits of proactive trust. As I mentioned in an earlier video in this week, we often don't recognize two very important hidden benefits of being proactively trusting. First, it helps us build a community of trustworthy people around us. And being embedded in such a community is obviously going to improve our happiness levels. Second, by proactively trusting others, we help enhance mutual trust in society, and recognizing that we're making this contribution will enhance our happiness levels because, as we saw in week 3, we all have a desire to contribute to the well-being of others. The third strategy of smart trust involves lowering the chances of being cheated or of being hurt. When you become more proactively trusting of others, you naturally increase the chances of being cheated. There's just no way around this. This is similar to how if you take greater risks in sports, let's say that you want to go down a black diamond slope when skiing, you increase the chance of getting hurt. What this means is that you need to have a strategy in place for minimizing the psychological damage from being cheated, since the last thing you want is to become even more distrusting of others than you were to begin with. How can you lower the psychological damage from having your trust violated? I've discovered that entertaining the following three perspectives helps me. First one is to recognize that you are, at least when it comes to material domain, much better off than most other people in the world. In other words, you can, in a relative sense, afford to get cheated more than most others can, at least once in a while. So what if a taxi driver in Ghana takes you for a ride, both literally and metaphorically? Or so what if a beer vendor in Goa or Thailand or Mexico gives you the slip? Being cheated of $20 here, $40 here is not going to make a huge dent in your wallet as much as it might in somebody else's, say a farmer in Central African Republic. Another way to look at it is this. If you and I, who are so much better off than most other people in the world, don't do our bit to enhance the trust levels in society, we can't really expect those who are much worse off than us to take up that role. This recognition helps me deal with the pain of being cheated. The second thing that also helps me is to make a resolution to hold those who violate my trust accountable. That is, I make a resolution to not let those who cheat me get away scot-free. I chase them down and give them a piece of my mind. Of course, you wouldn't want to hold them responsible for your happiness, right? As we discussed, you don't want to give up the keys to your own happiness, and you also wouldn't want to chase people down to take revenge on them. But you would want to hold them responsible for endangering what we now know is a precious communal commodity, interpersonal trust. If you do choose to do this, you will discover, to your surprise sometimes, that what you thought was a violation of your trust is actually just a communication mistake. This happened to me recently in Ghana. I hired a taxi driver to take me somewhere, and before getting into the taxi, I asked the concierge how much it would cost. The concierge told me 15 cedis. At least I thought he told me 15 cedis when he had actually told me 50 cedis. Taxi ride seemed really long for just 15 cedis, but often taxis are much less expensive in places like Ghana and India than they are in other countries, so I didn't think too much of it. Eventually, when we reached our destination, the driver charged me 40 cedis. I gave him the money, but only after giving him a good talking to, in which I gave him a big lecture on what the scientific findings on trust show and how his untrustworthy actions were lowering societal trust levels. It was only later that evening when I was back at my hotel and I had a chat with the concierge that I realized that the taxi driver had actually been quite honest. That made me feel quite bad, but it also made me feel good because it kind of restored my faith in humanity. By the way, I just want to end the story by telling you that I did manage to pass on a note of apology to the taxi driver through the hotel concierge. This experience reminded me of some recent findings, particularly by Paul Piff from the University of California at Berkeley and his colleagues, which show that those who are materially worse off are often more kind and compassionate than those who are better off. Here, let me play you a short clip that shows this.
And we were really interested in who's more likely to offer help to another person, someone who's rich or someone who's poor. In one of the studies, we bring in rich and poor members of the community into the lab and give each of them the equivalent of $10. And we told the participants that they could keep these $10 for themselves, or they could share a portion of it, if they wanted to, with a stranger who's totally anonymous. They'll never meet that stranger, and the stranger will never meet them. And we just monitor how much people give. Individuals who made $25,000, sometimes under $15,000 a year, gave 44% more of their money to this stranger than did individuals making $150,000, $200,000 a year. We've had people play games to see who's more or less likely to cheat to increase their chances of winning a prize. In one of the games, we actually rigged a computer so that die rolls over a certain score were impossible. You couldn't get above 12 in this game. And yet, the richer you were, the more likely you were to cheat in this game to earn credits toward a $50 cash prize, sometimes by 3 to 4 times as much.
As you just saw from that video clip, it turns out that poorer people are more likely to not just be more generous, but also cheat less than the rich. Reminding myself of this finding makes me feel less bad when someone poor cheats me, because I feel that on average, poorer people have a better heart. Here's another admittedly unscientific depiction of this idea that the poorer are kinder than you might expect them to be. This is a video made by Josh Paler-Lynn that has close to 39 million hits. Watch.
When you give homeless people money, do you ever wonder how they spent it? Today I'm gonna give a homeless guy $100 and I'm gonna follow him and see how he spent it. Hey!
Hey, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm alright.
I'm Josh.
I'm Thomas.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, I just tried to make him up to get me something to eat.
I just wanna give it back to people.
Yeah.
Not gonna be that much, but
Hey, anything's appreciated. Oh, goodness.
it's just $100 here.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, just keep it. It's your money now.
Oh, that's...
Just want, you know.
No, really, are you sure?
Yeah, go ahead, it's yours.
I'm starting to tear up
No,
over
it's
that.
okay.
Man, that's like incredible.
It's okay, it's alright.
Can I?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
I've never had this in my life.
Nice meeting you. I hope you can, you know, have a good use of that money.
It will be, sir.
Okay, great. See ya. Yeah, just keep filming. Just make sure he doesn't see you. He just came out. What do you get? Oh, let's go across the street. Let's go. Let's go. Go follow him. Wow. Oh. Just giving them food. I'm gonna talk to him.
You want some potato chips?
Oh, because those are too hot for her.
Thank you. Oh,
Hey.
hey, what are you doing here?
Hey, actually, come here. I need to talk to you.
Happy holidays, you guys.
Thank you.
I was following you the entire time.
Oh, yeah?
After I give you the money, we were there's a camera. My camera is right there. You see the camera?
Oh, yeah.
Do you even know them? Like,
No.
I feel like I owe you apologies because you went to a liquor store, right? Earlier.
Oh, you thought I was going to get all smacked up drunk, huh?
I thought you were gonna buy like alcohol or something.
Yeah, but there's things money can't buy, and my own, I get a happiness out of what I'm doing. No.
Here.
I'm fine.
No, you just touched my heart. You know, this is not
It's
this is not $100.
No, this is.
I want this. I want you to keep it.
I'm stunned.
I'm stunned. I'm
I
stunned
don't
by
know what to say. Usually I'm pretty talkative.
how you end up to, you know, like where you're at right now.
Basically, I was living with my parents, and my stepdad had cancer, and they were getting hospice, but it didn't cover. The insurance only pays so much. I quit working because I had to be available. And so he passed away, and then 2 weeks later, my mother passed away from kidney failure. Building they're in is being sold, the condo, and I all of a sudden found myself homeless. That's been like 4 months now. And there's a lot of people that are just victim of circumstance, and they didn't go homeless because they're late, you know what I mean?
Lazy or like
No,
drug addiction.
It
or-
could be a divorce, and one thing leads to another. The man sells his boat, his home, everything, and all of a sudden he finds out he's got no money, and he's, you know, there's a lot of good people that are homeless.
Now, all of this that you watch, that's not to say that if a poorer person cheats you, it won't hurt you. Even if you realize that someone may be poorer than you are, and that studies show that poorer people are kinder than the rich, it is still likely to hurt when you get cheated. So in the instances in which you do get cheated, even if it's by a poorer person, it would be good to have a strategy to get over that hurt. It seems that the act of or practice of forgiveness has a lot of potential to mitigate that hurt. A lot of papers have shown that forgiving improves happiness levels, or at least lowers negative feelings. One study was conducted with women over 65 who had been hurt by a negative interpersonal experience. These women were assigned to either a forgiveness condition or to a control condition. Participants in both conditions met for 8 weeks, 1 day a week. Those in the forgiveness condition were given training on how to forgive, while those in the control condition weren't given this training. The results showed that the anxiety levels had dropped and the self-esteem levels had improved significantly for those in the forgiveness condition compared to those in the control condition. In another study, people who had experienced romantic infidelity were given forgiveness training or not, and findings showed that those who had received the forgiveness training carried far less emotional burden than those who didn't. Other findings similarly show that forgiveness restores trust that we have in others. The question, of course, is how can you forgive someone who has violated your trust? Personally, and a lot of research backs this up, it's useful to think along these lines. If someone has cheated me, I try and empathize with why they felt compelled to cheat. As we saw in week 3, all of us have a deep-seated desire to love and give. So if somebody resorts to cheating, it's because they're ignorant of their own desire to be kind and generous, which must mean that they can't be that happy. It must also mean that they're ignorant of the importance of trust for happiness. Of course, when thinking these thoughts about the person who's cheated me, I remind myself not to feel morally superior to them. I tell myself that had I been in their shoes, it's quite possible, maybe likely, that I too might have behaved just like they did. This makes me feel grateful that I feel abundant enough to not resort to cheating others. And these set of thoughts, which have to do with trying to understand the circumstances of the person who might have cheated me, and also at the same time reminding myself of all the things that are going well in my life, allow me to adopt the attitude of forgiveness towards those who might have cheated me. Of course, there are a lot of other things involved in practicing forgiveness, but in the interest of time, I won't delve deeper into it. Let me just say that forgiveness can be such a powerful practice for enhancing both happiness and the trust that you have in others, that I've chosen it as the fifth happiness exercise for this course. And you can find the instructions for this exercise in the readings section for this module. Note that this exercise is an optional one. It's not going to count towards your grade. I have another exercise in mind as one that will count towards your grade. I will tell you about this exercise later this week. So, in summary, there are 3 strategies for smart trust. The first two actually, are for becoming more proactively trustworthy. One is to remember that people are more trustworthy, particularly when we trust them first, then we give them credit. And 2, to remember that by proactively trusting others, we are making an investment to enhance not just our own happiness levels, but the happiness levels of everybody around us. The third strategy is for mitigating the psychological hurt that comes from being cheated. One way to do this is by recognizing that if we, who are smart and successful and have so much going for us, can't bring ourselves to up the average levels of trust in society, then who else will? Another way to do it is by making a resolution to hold those who violate our trust accountable for it. Not in a vengeful way, of course, but in a way that conveys to them the importance of trust for everyone's happiness. And the final way is to practice forgiveness of those who violate our trust. Hopefully, by employing these strategies, you'll find it easier to exhibit proactive trust and therefore come to see for yourself what all these findings on trust have shown, that it increases your happiness levels. Here's to proactive trust, and with that, we are done with the 5th deadly happiness sin. In the next video, I will be moving on to the 6th deadly happiness sin, which is distrusting life. And I'll also cover the 6th habit of the highly happy and the 6th happiness exercise. See you soon.